Oh man, do you remember Discovery Zone? I sure do. I know I'm not the only one. I see people bring this up in the comments from time to time, and it always catches my attention. Discovery Zone was awesome. It was the coolest place for kids in the 90s. That and Chuck E. Cheese, and I'll say it, I like Discovery Zone better. I was born in 1991, so I fall right into this. They haven't existed for about 20 years, so I feel like I should explain what this is. It was like Chuck E. Cheese, but with much more of an emphasis on physical activity. They had these colorful tunnel systems and ball pits and bouncy places, but then they also had the arcade games and ticket redemption, pizza, places for kids' birthday parties. It was intended for ages 2 to 12, and if you were that age in the 1990s, you probably have great memories of this place. At their peak, in 1994, there were 347 of these all across the United States. Yet, they no longer exist. They didn't make it out of the 90s. Despite their massive reach and great reputation among children, they filed for bankruptcy in 1996, came back under new ownership the following year, and then filed for bankruptcy again in 1999. They never came back from that one, so let's take a look back and try to figure out what happened to DZ Discovery Zone. Back in 1989, when they started, the concept of these indoor play areas didn't really exist. Discovery Zone is thought to be a pioneer in the way that they were the first to do it in a major way. The idea came about when an owner of a fitness center was talking to a children's gymnastics coach, and they came upon the subject of how all the children entering his beginning level classes were really out of shape. They figured an indoor play area like this would be a fun way for kids to get exercise. Very positive intentions. They got together to open the first Discovery Zone, and as soon as they realized the concept would be successful, they started expanding through selling franchises. In 1992, when it was up to 39 locations, they sold it to a man named Donald Flynn. He was a businessman who was involved in a lot of things, including Blockbuster. Already, other people saw the success that they were having and liked the concept, so they started getting involved with their own competing businesses. Notably, McDonald's seemingly followed their lead in 1991 when they started a very similar chain of indoor playgrounds called Leaps and Bounds that they were aggressively looking to expand. In 1993, Donald Flynn started selling portions of the company. In April of that year, he sold 21.3% of it to Blockbuster for $10.3 million. 2 months later, in June, he put it up on the stock market and it performed very well. I'd actually say 1993 was their best year. Their stock price went up over 60% in its first day. Look at these numbers. The IPO price was $22 per share. After the 61% increase, it closed at $35.50. Then, a lot happened in 1994. For one, Blockbuster increased their ownership to 49.9%. Then, Blockbuster itself was bought by Viacom, effectively meaning that Viacom now owned half of Discovery Zone. Now, it's important that I mention, this industry was getting really competitive. Think about it. It's a concept proven to be successful that's not incredibly hard to imitate. Independently owned places were popping up. It's a little different, especially back then, but of course you had Chuck E. Cheese as a main competitor, and as I mentioned, Leaps and Bounds, owned by McDonald's, was very, very similar. After only 3 years of business, Leaps and Bounds was up to 49 locations and proving to be a pretty big threat. Discovery Zone had to act fast to keep their position, so in what I see as a defensive move, they bought it from McDonald's. Discovery Zone traded 5.5 million shares of their own stock for it, which was valued over $100 million. As a result of this trade, McDonald's became a significant owner in Discovery Zone. And I have to say it, what a cool place. McDonald's and Blockbuster came together to own the majority of Discovery Zone. In the 1990s, those were easily 3 of my favorite places. And that's when they were the biggest. That acquisition, along with a few others at that time, put them up to 347 locations. Now, on to the bad stuff. Remember that stock price, $35.50 after its first day of trading in 1993? Well, in 1995, it was trading at $5.50, $30 less, and even at that low price, there weren't many analysts suggesting you should buy it, which was good advice, because the next year, it went down to 68 cents when they filed for bankruptcy. If you invested in Discovery Zone in 1993, I'm so sorry. You would have lost just about all of it. it in 3 short years. In July of 1997, they emerged from bankruptcy with a new owner called Wellspring, a private equity firm known for their ability to turn around companies. They had this whole plan outlined with high hopes, but I won't go into the specifics of it because it didn't last long and it didn't work. Less than 2 years later, in April of 1999, they filed for bankruptcy again. A couple months after that, they closed about half of their locations, and I mean abruptly closed them. There were actually kids showing up for their birthday party that was planned months ago that just found an empty building. That would be a bad birthday. The reason they closed so quickly was simply to avoid paying another month of rent. That is not a good sign. 1 month later, what was left of Discovery Zone was bought by Chuck E. Cheese for $19 million in cash. They converted only a few of them into Chuck E. Cheese locations and sort of closed and sold off the rest of it. In my eyes, this was an opportunity to eliminate their main competitor when they were weak. $19 million to get rid of your core competitor is a pretty good deal, but that was the end of Discovery Zone. When it was all said and done, they existed from 1989 to 1999, giving kids across the country a solid decade of fun memories. Let me speculate some reasoning behind this rapid decline. I'm gonna go ahead and blame the parents for a portion of this. Imagine this: a trip to Discovery Zone is a commitment. It's not 5 or 10 minutes, it's a few hours. You're paying $5 or $6 to get in, taking off your shoes before you enter the play area, getting food, and really, good luck getting your kid to leave quietly until he's completely tuckered out. And it's not a daycare either. You're responsible for watching your kids, so you have to be there. As a parent, what do you do for these hours? This is before the days of killing time on your phone, and maybe crawl through a few tunnels with the kids, get some food, talk to some other parents, but for hours? You're basically just sitting there for most of it. The kids loved it, but the parents didn't, is my perception. Possibly further evidence for this is when a new location would open, it would typically start out with really high sales, then after a few months, they would start declining pretty fast, suggesting that everyone wanted to check them out, but weren't really convinced to return. I take this to mean that the parents were getting bored, so they weren't exactly rushing back. I think this is part of it, and you can identify other things that impacted their sales, but it's not the core of the issue. Focusing on the years leading to their bankruptcy, which I think we can all agree that's where things went wrong, not too shabby when it comes to sales. And I know they were adding so many new locations, which easily leads to higher sales, but their sales per location were looking pretty good too. The issue is they put themselves in a position where even these seemingly good numbers weren't good enough. Did you see how fast they were expanding? It's too fast, and it brought on so many issues. Probably the biggest is debt. Things were getting competitive, and they felt they needed to take out the competition and continue expanding by any means necessary. Most of it was funded by debt. Here's a graph showing their growing liabilities over this time and how they compare to their assets. That is not what you want to see. It means you can't pay off your debts. You get penalties, interest expense, and it makes it so you need even higher sales to stay profitable. Also, they got a little reckless here. Things like entering into leases without the best terms in order to get them fast. Opening play centers in new areas that weren't properly researched. Many of them ended up being too close to existing locations or just in a bad market. And with so many new places, the corporate offices were losing control of what was happening at the store level, which led to bad customer service, poor margins, high operating expenses, and just higher expenses overall. Again, making it hard for any of that revenue to make it to the profit line. Just look at their operating profits over this time. There's nothing good here, and it was mostly brought on by aggressive, reckless expansion. That 1995 number is pretty out of hand. It's kind of thrown the whole chart off. It's because of necessary write-downs, but even aside from that, 1993 was the last profitable year Discovery Zone has ever had. And I don't know, I just question if their heart was in it. You saw how much the ownership was transferring, and it kind of looked like everyone was trying to make some quick money rather than build a sustainable business. Discovery Zone had a dream team behind them: Blockbuster, McDonald's, Viacom, which by the way owns Nickelodeon. There is so much to work with here. How about a combination Blockbuster and Discovery Zone, or maybe McDonald's and Discovery Zone? They'll give the parents more to do, and the kids are not going to dislike that. Maybe some Rugrats wallpaper, or get some characters walking around. Slime? There's always slime. Those may not be the best idea specifically, but something along those lines. To my knowledge, they never did anything like this. Maybe a free rental promotion or something like that, but nothing major, and I question why. I just feel like more could have been done. So to summarize, Discovery Zone was this awesome place for kids in the 90s. I don't think the parents cared for it too much, but on occasion, maybe on a birthday or special weekend, they would put up with it. But sadly, Discovery Zone helped create an industry that quickly became very competitive, too competitive, to a point where they had to make some risky moves to stay on top. And then, for a variety of reasons, some of which were related to that expansion, they simply couldn't attract enough business to keep up with their expenses, and therefore couldn't earn enough money to keep up with their growing debt. Let me know in the comments, have you ever been to DZ Discovery Zone? It's crazy to think that if that answer is no, it's too late. Maybe there's something cool about it not existing past the 90s. The memories are preserved, you know, they're frozen in that moment. But imagine how cool it would have been to have a Nickelodeon-themed blockbuster McDonald's Discovery Zone. I would have had a heart attack. So do you agree with the reasons that I outlined, or do you think there's more to it? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching.